So in this module, I want to talk about bond yields. In the last couple of modules, we've talked about calculating the price of the bond when you're given the maturity of the bond, when you're given the coupon rate on the bond, and when you're given the yield of the bond. In this module, we'll do the reverse, which is we will take the maturity of the bond, which is given to us. We'll take the coupon given to us. We'll take the price as given, and then we'll calculate the implied yield to maturity. In this case, you're already given that, but I want to show you where this number came from. Okay, so it's a little different. It's on your calculator keys. If you think about what you have N, you have interest rate, you have payment, you have present value, you have future value, you have all these keys. So previously we took N, we took the coupon rate for the payment, we took the yield to maturity, and we calculated the price. Now we're going to be taking the price and calculating the implied yield to maturity. So let's try to do that. In this case, let's use these numbers. So the bond matures in 2045, and this bond is priced as of Wednesday, July 15th, 2015. So it's today, and this is when it matures. So it matures how many years from now? 30 years from now, right? 2045 relative to 2015. So your N in this case is 30 years, but because these bonds are semi-annual, we will use an N of 60. So your N, or your N per for Excel, is going to be 60 time periods. The coupon rate on the bond is 3. Remember, these bonds are all going to be, we're going to be assuming a par value of 100. So the future value is 100, which means the coupon rate of 3% converts into a payment of what? 3% of $100 is $3, but since it's semi-annual, that's going to be a payment of $1.50. Okay, the price, which is given to you, $97.45, is the present value. So the present value is $97.45, and you're computing, if you're computing it on your calculators, it's going to be your I/Y. On Excel, it's going to be your rate, right? So if you do that, let's do the calculation on that and see what we get. We should get a yield to maturity that will look like this. Okay, so let's see if I can go to Excel and pull up an Excel sheet where I am now going to calculate equals rate. Okay, and hopefully you can see that equals rate. Again, what are the inputs here? N per is the first input, that's 60. Then this payment, in this case the payment was $1.50, so minus 1.5. Present value was $97.45. Okay, and the future value was 100, so minus 100. Okay, notice what I've done here. I have taken the sign of the payment to be negative and taken the future value to be negative, but the present value is positive. You always want to keep the signs flipped. In other words, what you receive and what you pay have to be the opposite sign. You could do the reverse, and you could keep the payment and the future value positive and the present value negative. That's fine, but remember, you need to flip the sign. Okay, so if we do that, we get a rate of, let me make sure that it's 1.57%. okay, if I convert it into the right, if I add the digits, the decimals to it. So this again was rate, which is N per, and then payment, then we had present value, we had future value. Okay, so these are the things that were input into this function here. Okay, so that's 1.57. Now 1.57 is the yield or the rate, but again remember, because we used 60 time periods and we used a payment of $1.50, that's really a semi-annual payment. So this yield that we've calculated is a semi-annual yield. We need to convert it to an annual yield to really talk about the yield to maturity. Simple way to do that is to take that times 2, right? So that gives you, if you take it times 2, then what do you get? You get 3.13 or 3.132% is your, this is the yield to maturity. The yield to maturity here is 3.132%, where we've assumed that the number of periods is 60, the payment is $1.50, the present value is 97.45, the future value is minus 100. Okay, that is, those were the inputs into that calculation. Okay, and you get the rate of 1.57, and then you double that and you get 3.132 is your yield to maturity. Let's go back and see what was the yield to maturity on that. What was it? 3.132 exactly, right? So in other words, when you look at bond prices, when you look at the way bonds are traded on the market, you will see that they are in fact traded in this fashion. So you will see the maturity, you'll see the coupon, you see the price, and based on the price you can calculate the implied yield. So you're given the price and you will calculate the implied yield to maturity. These two columns in between, the previous price and the change in price, are simply changes relative to the previous day. Okay? So again, two things we've learned with bonds. We've learned to calculate the price or the present value given the number of time periods, the future value, the payments, and the interest rate, or we can calculate the interest rate given everything else. That's the end of the third module on bond valuation.